Okay, so sorry. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on your location, everyone. So, welcome back to our fourth day of our admin training. So, last session we have seen about data modeling and how to create a tab for respect to objects. So, we will be continuing on that. In last session, we've seen around 2 to 3 fields, how to create a custom field, how to create a custom object, how to create a tab with a custom object, right? So we'll continue on the same. As we've seen, there are around 10 to 15 fields. The third section. That's whatever we've seen. So we'll be continuing on that fields to be created in today's session. So I log into my org. The object name. Yeah. So this is the object. So last session we talked about around only one field. I think two fields. One is entrance exam, which is a pick list. Another one is a country. So just to quick recap of whatever we've seen in the last session, entrance exam we created with a pick list, right? So what are the pick list? So we can create a pick list with the two types. One with the options which you will be providing on creation of the field itself, and another thing is where you are going to use that pick list options in multiple places, or you're going to have the same set of options in multiple objects across the application. We will be configuring that in a something called global value set, and that global value set we will be referring on creation of the field. Let's say something like this. If I look at here, this country is referring a global value set. So if you observe the button, something called here country value set, this is my global value set. So the options, all the picklist options are coming from global value set, where I couldn't able to add or remove anything from the current this pick list option. If I look back at my another pick list, entrance exam. So if you look at here, the buttons at this value section is bit changed, right? So previously, where we will be having for the global value set, we had something called view pick list value set or view global value set, right? But here, this is something, if you would like to add new thing, you will be able to add option here. If you want to delete, if you want to inactive. So another thing is, let's say you don't want to, here we have a four pick list options: need, JE means MSET. Let's say I don't want to have need for next upcoming applications. Okay, so for that, either I can delete this pick list option from here, and so what will happen is that pick list option no longer will be available for any of our customers. Or we can also deactivate that. If I deactivate this, what will be happen is this will stay in the my configuration level, which is what I'm calling configuration is the pick list behind the scene options. It will still stay in the configuration level, but it will not be visible for the end users. So you can play around with it, either deactivate or activate or delete based on the requirement. You will be choosing either activation or deletion. And another thing is, if you observe, while we are adding a new pick list option, we've seen only we will be giving only one option. Let's say I would like to add another option called ESET. See, if you see here, I'm giving only one option, which is ESET. So Salesforce will add the same option to the as considered as label and API name. As we've seen, we will be having two options, two namings for each and every configuration. One is label and another one is API name. So whatever the label we will be giving, the same will be applied for the API name as well. So if you would like to change this, then here we can change this with label and API name with two different options. If you would like to, hey, I don't want to render here, label is something different, you can change here. So that's what about a pick list options. And what else we have? If you would like to change the order, or if you would like to replace one value with other, we have a separate different type of buttons. Okay, then yeah, I think we pretty much covered about this pick list option. Let's go back to our. So now I created a pick list option with country. So now I want to have the same kind of set of options for state. So now I'm going to use my state pick list options throughout the application. So I'll be creating global value set with the state options, and I'll be creating another field here, and I'll be referring that. So let's create a new pick list option. So I should not be creating here. First, before that, I have to go to the object setup and choose global value set. Sorry, pick list value set. That's what it is. So this pick list value set. So I have to create a new pick list option first. New global value set or pick list value set for state. Then I have to be choosing different. So if you look at my country, I have populated around 5 to 6 countries. So let's choose the states with respect to that. Okay. So I have India, USA. So let's populate at least these two couple of countries. So India will populate our familiar names. And so I want to provide few pick list options based on the country. So India I have chosen 5 here, 4, and USA let's populate a couple of them here. What else we have? US countries, Florida, Texas. Mm, what else we have? Maybe we can populate something called, yeah, let's populate 2.
California, Georgia.
And what is that? California?
California, Georgia,
Okay.
and Tennessee.
Dallas?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So, and Australia. Let me choose few for Australia. If anyone knows any states for Australia.
I think Sydney.
Okay. It's something called Victoria. Let's pop it couple for them. Okay, so maybe these two can be stay same. Now Canada and Russia, I'm not populating anything. So I have populated India for India, USA, and Australia. So now I have chosen here, and I have populated. Okay, so I'll.
Nishant, I think Sydney is not the state, it's a capital. The
Okay,
state is South Wales.
South Wales. Okay,
Yeah, New South Wales.
okay, all right. So I'll be. So I'm not populating anything. Let me display values as alphabetical order. Maybe let me choose this how it looks like and use the first value as default value. What will happen is, what are the pick list option we have? If customer did not choose any option or client did not choose any option, this value whatever I've selected here will be automatically set as default. So I'm saving it as I did not populate anything. Let customer choose it. Click on save. Okay. So based on this pick list value set or global value set, I have to create another state in my data in my object. So go back to my okay object manager. I can also search here using quick find fields and relationships, create new field, and it's going to be a pick list. Okay, so the label I'm just going to have only state here as well, and I'm going to use my global value set. So if I look at here, there is another option called state will be available. And if you see here, these two are disabled because we already discussed the same in the last session. These two are coming from our data mode, sorry, from global value set. So we should be having the same option from the global value set. So if you would like to have it required, you can also have this to the required. Click on next. So this is about the field, and this is about so which profile I should be giving access to this field. So you don't need to bother about this profile section for now. Maybe you can check all the fields if you would like to, or you can check only for the specific field what we are working on. System administrator. It doesn't impact anything in our developer org as long as we are working, but we will see the profiles while we are at the profile session, guys. Okay, then click on next. This is the page layout. We'll also look at this page layout in the next session tomorrow, next day of tomorrow session. Click on save. All right, let me see how I'm going to while how I'm it's looking for the creation of the new record. So let me go to my sales rep application. Sales rep. So I have something called institutes here. Click on new. Okay. So here, if you look at my screen, I have something called institute name. Entrance exam is required. So neat, I deactivated it. I did not delete. I deactivated it, but that is not available in the pick list option. So the deactivation will help if I want to again go back and add back. I can see I can also know how many pick list options before I had, and based on that if I would like to have it back I can activate it back. Okay, then country I have selected something called India, USA, Australia. Let's say I selected India. So states, if you see these states are sorted based on the alphabetical order. Now whenever I selected country India, I should only see as an end user, I should expect only the states with respect to the selected country, right? If I selected country as India and I'm seeing all the states, so if each country had around 20 to 30 fields, in this pick list I should be having around 100 pick list options. But as an end user, I should expect, if I select country, the state pick list option should only be rendered with respect to the country. So how could I achieve that? So this we might have already seen while filling some forms or applications. If I select country, state pick list options will be automatically changed, right, based on the country. So we could also do the same in the Salesforce as well. For that we'll be calling it as dependent pick list. So country is also a pick list, state is also a pick list. Now we want to establish a dependency between this country and state. So we have to configure something like country as a parent pick list option, state as a child pick list option, and on choose of the which parent and which child should be rendered. Okay, let's see that. Go to edit object. So if I can also go directly, if I want to go institute object directly from the setup, either you can go to the setup and go to the object manager and search the institute here, and we can go from here. Or if I am in the respect to objects tab, if you look at the screen, we might have already you might have already noticed it. Let's say if I am in if I'm not in the respect to object, let's say if I go to the sales, let's say service, I'm in the currently in the home tab, I should not see something called edit object here. So whenever we are in this respect to object, we will be having something called edit object. So it will gives us to directly go to the institute object. You don't need to do any navigations. Okay. So here, so this is my state. So we have to create a dependency between this state and country. So if you look at this field dependencies, we have to create a dependency with the country, right? So click on new. Either you can create from this particular, it went back me to there. If you can create from here field dependencies with a new button, or if you go back here, we have something called field dependencies on the top. You can also create from here. End of the day, both does the same job. So you don't need to go to the any field and click on dependency. So you can directly go from the global tab. Okay, so here I have to specifically mention which is the controlling field, which is the dependent field. Controlling field is a parent, dependent field is a child. So controlling field, here my controlling field is country, which is the parent, and dependent field is state, that is my child. So click on continue. So this will give me a mapping, a complete set of mapping. What are the options that I have, and so that I can select. So here we can select for India, what are the pick list options I should render. So you can select, clicking by clicking on the field. Only shift is working, actually control is not working here like how it is working. With command, my Mac command is not working, only control is working. Okay, so you can select selecting the respective state and click on include values. So this will enables this country. Whenever I select a pick list option called India, this Andhra Pradesh will be rendered for the respective country. Okay, so let me select remaining states: Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Okay, so I have selected three states here for India, and for US, maybe California, Florida. Let me add this, and Texas. Okay, for Australia, I think something called Georgia.
It's New South Wales for Australia.
Okay, New South Wales and Victoria.
I guess.
Okay,
For USA, it's Georgia also.
okay, all right. This is how the mapping looks like. So you will be selecting the respective pick list options for which country, for which and which state. So initially, it would be tough for us to. I mean, let's say we have only 10 or 15 options. So either if you don't select options render based on the alphabetical order, what we will be having is, what you can do is, whenever we are creating a pick list option, you can just select, you can enter the state names by country wise in order, and you can select by including single click with shift in selecting all the states and with shift, and you can select by single click with include values, and that would be easy if you do not select using alpha sort by alphabetical order. Okay, so Russia and Canada I'm leaving as it is. What else I have here next? Okay, that's it. If the pick list, if we have more than five, this will be like we will be having some pagination, and all these pick list options you will be selecting something like this. So exclude values, if you don't, if you wrongly select, you can exclude that, and that will be gone from here. So these are the two buttons. So if you would like to see, hey, how this is going to work, we before saving we have something called preview. So if I select, so this is the general field, right? We might have seen the same in all the places. So if I select country, the respective states will be rendered, right? We already seen the, say we might have seen this in the same different applications. So that's how the pick list options we will be creating. This is something called field dependencies. So this has a warning that to controlling field I don't have, I did not choose any options. So because Canada and Russia I did not add any states, if you would like to add, we can also add that. Okay, for now I'm just choosing okay. All right, let me see this. So here we have country, and the same however it looked for before, it will be rendering. If I select Canada, it is blank. Okay, because I don't have any pick list option for child. So that's how we enable field dependencies and the relationship, I would say dependencies, the par which field is the controlling and which field is the dependent. Okay, so let's see how, what are other fields we have. We are in the third section, right? Not this. So checkbox, only we've seen only the pick list, right? So let's create some other different fields. Okay, let's create checkbox. So this is straightforward. You, I guess you might, if you are done, Maybe I'll just quickly wrap it up. If not, we'll see each and every field option, guys. So, all right. Okay. We will be calling. We knew that pick list, sorry, checkbox will have only two values, right? Checkbox, which is nothing but a boolean. Either it's a true or false. That's it. So let me create something called is autonomous. That's what we have given in the task two, and the API name will be automatically populated. So if you would like to add, my maximum make sure of habit of what this field is going, the description. So always have an habit to populate the description. And help text we already seen in the last session how this will help. The description is for developers, help text is for end users. That's what you can simply remember. Okay, so default value, this is something. If you would like to have a checkbox by default always as true, let me create this, right? Check it. Let's see how it's rendering in our UI. Next, so this is the field details. So each and every field will have 3 to 4 sections or 3 to 4 steps. One will be populating the labels, and then we will be choosing what type of, how many profiles this field should be visible, and then for page layouts. So for now I'm choosing for all the profiles. So this is the page layout. Click on save. So I selected checkbox as a default pick list option. So let me refresh the screen. Somehow, okay, I did the same catchy again. uh, Let me navigate to different tabs. So this is what we will be calling it as catchy in the Salesforce. Whenever you're doing working in the configurations or development, changes will not be reflected back because Salesforce will maintain a catchy. So that catchy will be like, it will give the previous sessions always. So let me go back to my sales rep. Okay, if you are not seeing still, for do multiple refreshes. If you're not still seeing that, maybe quick trick for is inspect the page. If you are already familiar with this, inspect the page and long press this refresh icon, or right click on the refresh icon. We had something called empty cache and hard reload. So this will give you, it will refresh the complete page and removes the complete cache and do hard reload. So with this, it will give my session. So if you are already familiar with inspect and that's fine. If not, that saves our time, because each and every time whenever we are doing that, still it did not. Great. That should actually, no, it did not. All right. And this is also another, next thing is this still did not work. Maybe we have some other options too. I'll show that in going forward sessions. But for now, if another thing we did not, till now we did not get, another option is log out and log in, so that it will removes the complete cache as well. That is another option. There is also another option where you don't want, yeah, I don't want to maintain cache at all. Okay, so whenever I'm doing, like, at least for development purpose, maybe while I'm giving to my customer, I'll be maintaining it for at least my development purpose. We also can do some other options. So let me show you that. So go to the setup. So behind the scene, I'll just give you a quick intro or a quick overview of what will be happen behind the scene. Whatever we did log in with the username and password, Salesforce will maintain something called a session. Okay, that session will be either it should be a 1 hour or 1.5 hour. That is also based on the configuration. Once the user logged in and user logged out, until that particular duration, a session will be maintained. Not only the Salesforce, every other application will also maintain the same kind of a sessions. Each and everyone will be calling us different names. So we will be, Salesforce will be maintaining a session. That particular session will be, so each and every session its own IDs. So we will be changing that with the session settings. So you can type here session settings. uh, yeah, so this is the session setting. Just go to the quick find and type session settings, and we have something called, under the security we have something called session settings. Okay, so if you see, I'm not diving for each and every option. I'll just quickly walk through for a couple. Session timeout, if you look at the session timeout, we have this timeout as 2 hours. So this will give me, once I log in, let's consider for at least you did not do any operations, or you're giving some, like, for third party for third party applications, you are giving your session to interact with the Salesforce. That is something we'll be calling as integration. Whenever we had whenever we are, Salesforce is talking to other third party applications. So this session will be mostly, it makes sense at that portal time. So you can remember for now, this is the how many hours this session should be active. So if I give 24 hours, the whatever the session I'll be generating with the username and password, and whatever the session I did log in here, right? So if I log in with username and password, and I did not do any operation for a certain time, it is idle. That particular session will not be logged out until this 24 hours. Okay, so that is this timeout value. So I'll be keeping as it is. Then, so that is this option, force logout on session timeout. If I give only, so you consider the bank applications, right? So in the bank, if you might have seen the bank applications, at least for 5 minutes of inactive, it will be automatically logs out. So because of all this is due to the sessions and due to the security. Okay, and here in the catching, there is something option called catching. If you see here, there is an option called the second picklist checkbox option. Enable secure and persistent browser caching to improve performance. So this is, make sure you are not unchecking this checkbox in any of your clients org, either in a sandbox or production, because Salesforce should run only on the cache. That's where it is too fast, and it is like most interactive and quick response. As a developer in my developer orgs, you can uncheck this checkbox that did not harm, so that you don't need to wait for all the time, or you don't need to spend much time on the refreshing the pages. Okay, so if you uncheck this checkbox, cache will not be maintaining, and our responses or what are the changes we are doing, it will be rendered on single refresh itself. Okay, remember, don't do this trick any of your sandbox or productions or whenever you're working in your orgs, guys. Okay, I'm not diving for each and every other settings, so let's save it. So now let me do a hard reload. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, so is autonomous. If you observe here, this checkbox option by default, it is populated with some value. So that's where we will be defining the default value. All right, we can also do the same for pick list option too. Let me go to this object. um, Entrance exam. So let's say I want to have one entrance exam by default option. So here we have something called edit, right? Click on edit, you can select this checkbox. So let's say I want to make it as an active. So if you want to make first checkbox option as an active, you can do with, there is something called, while we creating we will be seeing that. So I think we don't have that in the edit, but while we creating that, we will be seeing there is something called uh, sort based on the alphabetical order, and make first option as a default value. Let's say I want to choose always JE means as my default value. Click on that. So let me refresh this. So it does automatically, before it is checking as none, so it is automatically checking as JE mains. So if you don't want your client or to populate any value by default, we'll be selecting this default option, guys. Okay, so been already 55 minutes we started. So we've seen these couple of fields, so we'll go for a quick break, and we'll join back after 10 minutes, guys. So before we go for any break, do you guys have any questions? All right, so I can take that silence as no. All right, guys, let's have a quick 10 minutes break, and we'll join back. So let me close it off. Okay, so we've seen how we will be creating a fields to make a default options and everything, right? So let me see what else the field we can quickly discuss here. Picklist multi-select text area. So this text and text area, I think we discussed the same in the last session as well. Text is we will be having a maximum of 255 character as well. Text area is also a 255 character. The difference is text will be in the single line, text area will be in the multi-line. And text area long, text area rich. So text encrypted. So everything all looks the same. So let me create one encrypted field. So maybe not sure whether this is familiar, but we'll create something with encrypted. So I want to have GST number as encrypted field. That's what we have in our assignment as well. GST number. The length maybe we'll be having around maybe 30 characters. So maximum length is 255. You can also restrict to your own length. So if we have something called mask type and mask character. So here maybe if you look at our Aadhaar cards or something, maybe we have our uh, mask types, right? So what we'll be having is should we render last four characters as so mask all characters will be having all the characters will be masked, which is rendered with some other character. Last four characters clear, which is all the first characters will be mask and except last four, like kind of credit card number first and last, I guess. NIN number, social security number is also the same. Last four characters, SIN number. So how do we need to how we can mask it? So for now I'm choosing last four characters and mask character, maybe star or X. So this is how if we mask as the last four characters, it's the credit card number, it's just the format. So we'll be having a GST number, right? So I'm choosing only last four characters. So this is how we create an encrypted field. Next, save. So these are the some fields. So let's try to create all the fields from your end, guys. So if I see the while creating a new field section, I said we have a different sections, right? So this is data type has a different sections. This is one two and three. So we are looking at this third section. This section will be calling it as, if I categorize fields into different sections, first section we will be whatever we looked so far we'll be calling it as editable fields. Okay. Then the top section on top of it we have something called lookup relationship master data relational lookup, right? This section we will be calling it as relationships, relationship fields. Okay. On top of it we have something called auto number roll up formula, something called this, right? This is will be called as read only fields. Okay. So far we've talked about how we will be creating editable fields. So what are the different type of editable fields we can create, and we've seen couple of fields with created, right? So now let's talk about relationships and something called this. Okay. So what are the relationships? So whenever we are dealing with object model, so we are not going to deal with everything in the one single object, right? Definitely we will be storing our data into multiple folders, multiple objects. So we will not only choose a single object. If we do with that, that is something we are doing a wrong data modeling. So we have to categorize our data based on the based on the needs, based on the usage. So that's where we will be creating different objects. Now each and every object has its own unique needs, and it will serve for particular needs. We have to maintain some relationships between the objects so that our data will be more clear and more meaningful usage. Let's say I have some account data. Account is my customer information. Customers company information will be stored in the account object. So whoever I'm dealing with the contacts, I'll also be creating the same contacts in the contacts object. Along with that, I have to maintain the respective contacts what are dealing with the company under the particular account, so that whenever I'm viewing my data, original data as a customer, whenever I'm viewing my data, I can be able to easily access the contact information under the particular account itself. So it makes the routing easy, the navigations easy, and our records also will be cleaned and properly stored. So to create these relationships, we have three type of relationships we can establish. Okay, that relationship is, I think we have as in SQL. If we talk in the SQL, we have something called primary key and foreign key, right? So primary key and foreign key, I think foreign key is the relationship. Primary key is the same single unique field in the respective object. So as long as we have the foreign key, the same like we have relationships. So each and every relationship will have its own. What it will create is, wherever we are creating relationship, that is the child object. And what are the let's say maybe account and contact. If I take quickly account contact, whenever I'm creating contact record, I should be choosing account like this, right? Cancel contact. If I want to create a new contact, so here I can choose my account, which is child can select a parent. So while I'm creating child record, hey, under which parent this account has to be created, so I can choose from here. So all these contacts I'm creating here will be sitting under that particular account. So that is the, so in this scenario, contact is a child of this respective account. The same way, what are the fields we are creating? The relationship field will be the child object. Okay, so we have a three type of relationships. One is lookup, and another one is called master detail. There is something called external lookup. We'll park this aside. We'll talk about this later. So these are the two mostly we will be using in our day-to-day activities while we're doing with the Salesforce. The lookup relationship, we'll see the difference between these two relationships. We'll talk about this. Lookup relationship is something you will be creating. You are establishing a communication between two different objects. Let's say institute, right? I have institute, and I have something called maybe another object called a student. Maybe let's consider. Okay, I have another object called student. So a lookup relationship is also a relation which indicates the same relationship communication, which establishes a relationship communication. Master detail also does the same. When we use lookup, when we use master detail is, I'm creating a student record. Okay, whenever a student record is creating, a student cannot create as an orphan record. Orphan, I mean, which will not come under any of the parent. Okay, then I will be creating as master detail. So the thing is, if whenever I'm creating a student record, student has to choose the institute. Either he will be joining in on which institute he would like to join. Either it's a Harvard University or Cambridge University or any other university. He has to choose the institute. At that time, a student record cannot be created as an orphan without any parent. Then I'll be creating as a master detail, which is definitely whenever we are creating a child record, child should choose a master, which is a parent. Where lookup, let's say, what can we bring for a lookup? Mm, maybe something called I couldn't able to bring proper scenario, but what else we can maybe a staff for now. Let's consider staff, a lecturer. Okay, let's consider this lecturer. I'm not sure which is making sense, but when I'm creating the staff record, no need to be choosing the institute at the creation time. You can always populate. So maybe I'll come up with this lookup for proper example. But lookup relation, whenever you would like to have a relationship, you can create a relationship record. You can also establish the relationship record. So you will be choosing a lookup relationship if needed only. That means it is not mandatory. When it comes to master detail, it is mandatory. You have to choose your parent. Without parent, child record cannot be created. But for lookup, you can create child record, and if needed, you can also populate parent. If not, you can just create simply child record. That's the lookup. So mostly we will be dealing with the lookups in our day-to-day activities based on the respective needs. So we will also see that how we will be having different scenarios. So when master detail is also have, so lookup and master detail both have its own considerations. We'll talk about all this in later session. Let's create one relationship between these two objects. So now I want to create a student object. Let me create a student object first, and then I'll establish communication to institute. So go to the object manager. So I would like to create a student, plural label students. So I have chosen label and I've chosen object API name, description. This object to hold all the student. Okay. So the record name. So I'll be choosing only database text, and everything I'll be leaving as it is. Here I'll be choosing this allow search as well. Along with that, I'll not create a custom object here. Okay, I'll show you how to create an object without here. So for now, I just checked allow search and I did not check this. Okay, so let's save this object. My object is saved. Okay, so now let me create a couple of fields here. Okay, also if I categorize these fields into another section, So we talked about actually three fields, three sections, right? Double fields, relationship fields, read only fields. If I subcategorize the read only fields, system fields, which are application fields, and custom fields, system or standard, we can call it as. Okay. So before we create a lookup, I'll just quickly show what is system fields. So read only fields, the name itself indicates we couldn't able to make any changes of it. Okay. So which is a completely, we can only view the record, we don't have any control on top of it. Those are, if I subcategorize into this read only field, we have a something called system or standard field. The systems field or standard field are few standard fields which we are having looking here is created by this. I think we already talked about in the last session. This is a standard field will Salesforce will maintain for each and every object, despite of it's a standard or custom object. Each and every object will have created by, so who created this record. Okay. And last modified by, which indicates who modifies this record lastly. And owner id, who is owning this record, who is owning this record. Either it can be the user or group. So owner, there is it no need to be the created by an owner, could be the same. We will be some cases mostly it is the 50-50 probability only. Some scenarios we will be having created by an owner id is the same. Some scenarios, whenever you are dealing with, you want to delegate this to another users, so you will be assigning this particular record to the some other user. Okay. And the name field, this is also standard field. This name field, most of the object will have its own name field. So name is also a standard field, either it's a text field or an auto number field. Okay. Along with this standard fields, we also have a something called created date, last modified date, and what else we have, what else we can have. Yeah, there are a couple more fields, but for us to familiar with, create a date, last modified date, along with these fields. So these are falls under systems or standard fields of read only fields. Okay. Every object will have these fields. Then custom fields, we'll talk about this once the relationship fields are done. So let me create a new field. So now, as I said, I want to make an establishment between a student and the institute. So whenever a student record is created, a student record cannot create without choosing an institute. Okay. So master detail is actually a bit interesting concept. We'll also dive deeper in coming sessions as well. So we'll create this for now. So now I want to establish a communication between student record, student object, and institute object, where student is a child record, institute is a parent record. So I'm creating a relationship in the child record, child object. Always create a relation. We have to create a relationship record in the child only. So I choose a master detail here and click on next. So now this is the first screen is which object this can be a parent. So here I'll be having all the list of objects. Now I have to choose my object is institute. Okay. Then click on next. So label should be the institute. You can also change your own label. Maybe I'm calling it as institute name. So you can, by default it will bring the object name as the field label. You can also always change that field label name. Child relationship name, this is also something, whenever we are accessing child records from parent, we will be using that, using this is for developer aspect. Whenever you need to access child records from parent itself, we'll be using this field. Okay, then so here this is also sharing setting, as I said, like we have different sharing for each and every, or we'll talk about this in the sharing concept, sharing class. And what else we have? So this checkbox, this is something we have to remember. Allow reparenting is whenever a child is created, should i should I allow my customer to change the parent once they created it? So we can restrict the customer to not to change if they chosen the parent record by checking this checkbox. If you not check this checkbox, they can always change the institute after they create records. So if they've chosen institute, they could not be able to change it. So then we will be checking this checkbox. Okay, so for now that's all I have. We'll talk about these filters in upcoming sessions. So this is the my relationship I've created. So I want to click on next. So the same, so as it's a child record and child parent should be required, right? So that's why it is visible for each and every profile. We couldn't able to control anything on this. Click on next. Then layout also, because it will be automatically added to the layout. Then only the layout is the something where we are viewing it the records. So this particular screen, this is something we'll be calling as page layout. This will be seeing in the tomorrow next session. Okay, click on next. So this is how you would like to see the child records from the parent UI. So if I go to the institute, what are the child records which are under my this institute will be rendered here. This is the label for that particular section. You can change this as well. So student, for now I'm just changing this to student records. Okay, save it. So I just create a relationship record which is a master detail. So let's see, let's go to the student object. So let me refresh the screen. I don't have any student object here. So how could I view my student records? Okay. So now I want to create, because if you remember, while creating the student object, we did not create a tab for it. Like however we did for institute object, we did not do the same for student record, student object. So now I want to create a tab. How to create a tab for existing object which is not created yet? So go to the setup home page, setup home, type tabs, tabs. So we have something called tabs under user interface section. Click on that. So we can also create tabs for different we can also create different tabs, not only the custom object. So this is, we have 5 different sections we can create for with the custom object. That's what we have seen in the last session with the institute, how to create it. Then web tab, this is, we just to remember, just to know, these are the different tabs. We will not be working anything now, just to for your understanding and to know how many different type of tabs we can create. Mostly we'll be dealing with this custom object tabs, lightning component tabs, lightning page tabs. Okay, but just remember there are different types as well. So this is something called web tabs. You will be providing your, you know, the URL of the third party application, and then we will be choosing it. Okay, for now I'm just not creating anything now. Then visual force page tab, So this is something, maybe I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the word called visual force, still who are working in the Salesforce. There is something called visual force before lightning comes into the picture. That is, what do we call? Maybe I would say an era of Salesforce, evolution of Salesforce. A Salesforce is actually, maybe like, first started with the something called S controls, then Visual Force came into the picture. This Visual Force page, just for now, remember, this is an end UI where customer is like however we did here, right? The objects and everything. Let's say you want to build some custom UI. So you are not like, whatever we have a section something here, you want to build some custom UI. For that, earlier of 2014 days, we have only option is Visual Force, where we will be building our Visual Force page, and we can view our, and we will be building our custom UI. Then after, in later of 2014, lightning component, there is just remember the word as well here. There is something called lightning component comes into the picture. So lightning component is the, uh, another next evolution of the Salesforce after the Visual Force page. So this is also the custom UI development, one of the component, one of the, I would say, not a tool, but one of the type where we will be building our custom UI. Okay, so we can also create tab with the lightning component if you have, and lightning pages. This we'll be seeing in our second week of third week of our sessions, how to create a lightning page tabs. Okay, then we'll talk about this more. For now, the lightning page is also something you will be creating your own page with embedding different components. Okay, so these are the different type of tabs we have in the Salesforce. Okay, all right. So let me get back to our original topic: how to create a tab for student object. So if we have something called, look at something called custom object tabs, we can create tab for each and every object. So the existing object tab till now, as I created custom objects, are still pending is student. So student is the object which I did not create any of the custom object tab. That's why it is visible here. It is rendering in this list. Select student, then tab style. You can choose your own style. Let me choose some different, which makes sense to this student record. Mm, I'm not seeing something any useful to this. I think here's something called presenter. I'll choose this. Okay, I'm choosing presenter here. It don't need to be your own, it no need to be the same, uh, meaningful. You can also customize your own style. Okay, by clicking on create own style, you can also choose. So on tab selector, either you can choose your custom type, or you can choose your own standard. So here you can choose your own color. If I want to have respective color, let's say I want to create the student as with a, orange or green color, I can choose it. Okay, so I can choose the icon for which it can be applied for it. Okay, so let me have some image. Okay, this is a different topic. We'll talk about this when we come into the document. So I already told you, right? We have something called storage documents while we are discussing about standard objects. There is something called documents in the Salesforce, which is storage of my all the documents across the organization. Those will be choosing here. For now I am leaving as it is. I'll choose in one of the record. What is that? Something called presenter. Okay, next I'll be choosing next here. So the same again, we have a different type of tabs to be rendered. So for now I'm choosing all the profiles. So if I don't want to have for all profiles, I'll be making it as default off. Then I'll be choosing on for only my admin profile. Next. So how many applications should I include this? So I'll be choosing for sales rep. All right. Now I created my students tab. So go back to my sales rep, refresh the screen. Here we go. Click on new. So see here the student name. This is a standard field by default name, standard name field. And institute name. This is the also the standard field. Sorry, custom field which we create a master detail relationship. So you couldn't able to create a record without populating institute name because we made this communication both like parent and child. So child record cannot be created without creating a without choosing a parent. So that's what it is about the master detail. So we'll talk about the lookup relationship in the next session and the differences of lookup and master detail and a bit deeper in the next session, guys. So before we close for the day, do you guys have any questions? Okay, then if you don't have anything, that's all from my end for today's session. So just a quick recap of our today's session is we've seen different just we again did recap of field dependencies, uh, how to create a lookup field. Then we talked about field dependencies, how to establish a parent dependent fields between two fields, parent and child. And we talked about some of the standard custom fields, and we categorized salesforce fields into three different sections: editable fields, read only fields, and what is another section, relationship fields. So we created a couple of fields with relationship fields and how to make the default value. And then we talked about relationship fields and we've seen about master detail. So we'll talk about more on relationship fields in the next session, and we'll talk about the double fields in the next session. Yes. All right. Until and unless you don't have anything, we are good for the day. Guys, please try to make it interactive if you're having any questions, so that I can also know how much we are getting to know. All right, guys. So I can consider that silence as a no. We'll meet you on Wednesday. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your time. So have a good day and good night. Bye bye.
Thank you.